My name's Jonathan Yeo, and like probably a lot of you, I'm unable to get to my place of work at the moment. So I've set up this little temporary studio at home, and I'm spending some of the lockdown seeing if it's possible to paint portraits over FaceTime. I've never worked in this way before, and I've never really had people watching the whole process. So it will be an interesting experience for me. You'll see everything, including the mistakes, no doubt. But you'll also get to witness what goes on in portrait sittings and how you gradually get a sense of someone's personality and try and translate that onto a canvas. As well as the technical complexity of setting all this up at home, trying to film and record everything, not to mention getting hold of my subjects and be able to see them properly over FaceTime. I'm even going to try and stream some of the sittings live, which may or may not turn out to be a good idea. Every time I've tried to do this, something's gone wrong. Next up is the stellar broadcaster and occasional painter herself, Fearne Cotton. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Well, I'm okay. It's just lunacy in this house, like I'm sure it is in yours. It's just, I've never been so tired, and I hate cleaning, and I'm just over it. It's just the unknown, isn't it? Like, how long are we doing this for?
Yeah. And that's the trouble. It's that even if it eases up for a bit, we might go back into it if things get worse again. And it could be a year. I mean, that's certainly the sort of like, actually the scientists are saying that's quite likely. Which is so strange.
Yeah.
I know. Wow, what a strange thing. What a strange interlude in the middle of our lives. Hey look, so what I'm going to do with this one is, so I figured it, and my slight ulterior motive for suggesting you to do this was that I know you're interested in painting and you do it yourself very well. And I just thought, well, actually, I haven't done very much so far of really talking through the process. And just as an exercise for me, to do one where I actually say what I'm doing and the decisions I'm making. And I'll try not to make it too frustrating if you're not looking at the picture, because I think that's quite fun as well, to sort of have that sort of surprise towards the end.
I love that idea.
So one of the decisions I'm making at this stage is the sort of composition. Obviously that's the first decision you have to make. And so I've got this scale sort of like this, and you can sort of do two different things. You can just do someone's sort of like, you know, head and shoulders, or you can sort of like just pull back a bit, and not that I haven't really decided either way. I think maybe the problem with that, if we do that, it's difficult to do much bigger canvases in my tiny workspace here, and actually it means shrinking you down a bit. So I think maybe I will still stick to doing it kind of like, you know, sort of chest and head.
I'm so lazy that I never go past there when I'm painting. I'm just like, to do a whole body, I actually can't be asked, which is really lazy. And are you using pencil or charcoal? What do you use?
Yeah, I'm literally starting with a piece of charcoal, which I've already said. Also, I mean, I think I told you before, but I didn't go to art school, so I've got this funny thing that, you know. Then of course people are asking when I was doing the live ones, lots of really sort of technical questions that I really didn't know the answer to, which I was quite open about.
Are you drawing grid first, or are you just drawing?
No, I'm just drawing. It's quicker, and when you're just doing a head, there's not much advantage in doing a grid. I mean, grids basically are great for if you're trying to plan a composition out first. Historically, you do it when you've done a drawing and you like that drawing and you wanted to scale it up to the painting. And then in recent years, you do that with photographs. And I think often if I'm doing a more complicated composition, like full, as you said, the complexities of full length, or if you've got something else going on, it stops you from drawing it out very painstakingly and getting to the bottom and finding the foot's just going out of the canvas, which is annoying. Unless you're Lucian Freud, where that was his sort of thing. The downside is it means you tend to make things a bit tight, and you don't sort of like, there's sort of less scope for changing your mind on things along the way, for exaggerating things, for the quirks of when you're doing it just by with your hand.
And are you quite good at being pretty accurate the first time you do that sketch, or do you find that actually when you're then painting over it, you're like, oh wow, actually the eyes are way too big or whatever? Because I will often draw it out and think that looks pretty accurate, start painting and go, oh wow, I was so wildly off with that, and I'll then start correcting it in paint. I
find I'm quite uncritical early on, and if it's vaguely right, that'll do, because you can go on changing it as you go along. I think it's really good often at the start, and it's only when I'm looking back later I realise how terrible it was. But I think, and that's another thing. I think also people are seeing the picture all the way along. I've learned, people you sort of get, if they see it after the first sitting, they sometimes get quite nervous about how it's all going. Or say, oh, that looks vaguely like my cousin or brother or something.
I'd just gotten back into painting before this bloody lockdown. I was like, right, my daughter starts actual school in September, hopefully, but her nursery hours are kind of slightly more substantial. So I was like, right, I've actually got a little bit of time now, because I hadn't painted a portrait in, God, like 5 or 6 years. Because before I had kids, I would do like one a week. I was completely obsessed. And I was like, right, sod it, I just have to do it and just get the paints out. And I did my first one and I was happy with it. I was like, okay, phew, if I put the time and effort in, I can do this. So I was like, right, I'm going to be on a roll. And now lockdown, I don't have a second.
So, and how did you study? Was there a period where you really did a lot of it in the past?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, I was obsessed as a kid. That's all I wanted to do, was draw and listen to music and dance. It was always very creative stuff. My dad has only just retired this last year, but he was a sign writer. And, loads of my childhood memories are of me in this huge kind of warehouse art studio they had within the Wembley estate, because he did all the signs for Wembley Stadium and Wembley Arena. And I would sit and it would stink of like paint and terps in there, and you'd be like gassed. But I would sit there watching him, back in the day, in the 80s, he would sit there and paint by hand, and it was so beautiful to watch. So he also loves just painting, and he's painted a load since he's retired. My God, he does one a week at the moment. It was always something that was sort of practiced at home. And then I did an art GCSE, I did an art A-level. That was the only A-level I actually took, because I'd already started working at that point on the telly, so I didn't have time to do any more than one. And then I was already working, so I didn't go to uni, I didn't carry on studying from there. But certainly from that point onwards until I had kids, so really all through my late teens and 20s, I painted relentlessly. It was kind of my time out away from how mad my job was. I know that once both kids are at school, I'm going to pick up where I left off. I feel so good when I'm doing it, and I really like doing things with a sense of achievement. Like, I worked hard and then I have something to show for it, and I think painting is the ultimate version of that, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think there's a slightly meditative aspect of doing it, where you just lose track of time and kind of get just to be involved in something, and you're not thinking about other things.
The majority of people at this age now realise do a real rough all over first, and then go over it again and again. Whereas I do like one eye perfectly, and then I move on and do the nose perfectly. So I do each bit by bit. I'm not sure if that's the right way or if there is a right way, but I could never just roughly do it all and then keep going. That doesn't make sense to me for some reason.
Yeah, and it's a good question. I think that's how when you're taught how to do these things. That's how you're taught, basically.
Yeah.
It's to sort of like block it in, and it's a slightly more traditional way of doing it, to do it light and dark in the sort of broad terms early on, and then add colour. I mean, in the very old days, they used to then build things up in sort of glazes. So you'd start sort of like monochromatic with slightly more bright areas, and then add these colours in glazes, which gives it a lovely sort of depth. I'm a bit impatient for that in some ways, although I often end up spending just as long doing it the other way. And a bit more like you. I mean, I'm sort of kind of halfway between the two in a way. I'll sort of put down colours and then occasionally I'll let it dry and then do another layer, but sometimes I'll just carry on working into it. And then partly just what you're interested in starts to sort of like emerge first, and then fill in other bits in a slightly looser way. And actually, because of that, I've gotten the habit of then just, not necessarily deciding till, at a later stage how much of everything I'm going to do. I find there's something quite interesting about if there are bits are more done than others. It somehow, to me at least, it relates more to how we sort of remember images and things. If you look at someone's face and then look away, you don't even remember every detail precisely.
Yeah.
You certainly don't remember every bit about the background, but you do remember the key parts of the face, especially the bits that are moving or the bits that are relevant to, communication, the body language and the expressions. And so I think that I've always found that idea interesting, that thing of how do our minds put images together rather than what we've got used to, which is the way cameras see things, which is totally democratic. Every part is treated with, evenly and...
Yeah, that's so interesting. I hadn't really thought of it like that.
We sort of edit with our minds all the time. Partly our minds are trying to save energy and not have to sort of analyse something. You don't check the sort of the dimensions of a room and check all the lines of perspective meet up. Pattern recognition means if two bits are there, you fill the rest in, and it's good. It's for efficiency, because when we look around the room, obviously everything is in total detail. But when you're only looking at one part of it, the rest is you make these assumptions about it.
Yeah. Portrait painting is, usually seen as one of the trickier sort of skills in art. There is more judgment on whether it's right or wrong, because you can go, that looks like someone or that doesn't, Whereas with like a vase, you go, yeah, that's the vase. And I find it really interesting to sort of, well, first of all, see someone's interpretation of a face, but also to sort of see what bits flow easily. And I certainly always feel challenged when I get to someone's mouth. There's just something about the shape of it and how it can change a face so much if it isn't spot on.
Yeah.
And I wonder if at the level you're at, there are still parts of a face, or if you even see it like that, that are more challenging or that you could get slightly off.
I think we're very sensitive to certain parts of the face in particular, which are the bits that communicate someone's sort of personality and their mood, because that's relevant. Going back, in our DNA, we had to read situations very fast, and I think the mouth in particular is one where, I think the fact that CGI has been really bad at getting people sort of the way people talk. Is testament to that, not because they're doing it less well than the other things, but just we're so sensitive to whether there's something slightly wrong. One of the things I didn't notice for years, but is that there's literally, I have never seen a portrait in history where someone's teeth are showing and it looks okay. A painted portrait. So I've just done basically I've done a little charcoal sketch. You'll see this all afterwards, and I'm just going to put down a few marks, and it's kind of what you were saying before. I'm starting to put a little bit of paint down. I'm not going to put too much down now. I'll save that till the next session. But just to sort of refine a bit and start to put in some details, even if they're a bit wrong. I'm not going to worry too much about getting everything right. It's just about sort of like starting to see how different it'll look when there's paint there.
Or your own sort of personal rule of not being too critical early on, because I think that sometimes makes me want to give up. So I need to adopt that from now on and go, this can look a bit shit for the first few hours, and we'll work with that. Yeah,
it's so important, and I think you want to expect it to, even to the point that if it's going really well early on, that should be a bad sign.
I got you. It's like that shit rehearsal, good show kind of thing.
Hey, look, this is lovely, I think that's probably, it's not a bad moment. I mean, some of those moments where I could either get stuck in more, or I think it's a good moment to pause anyway. It's one of the classic mistakes is to think, it's going well, and then go way beyond the point where you should have stepped back and had a good look at it, and then gone back to it, because there's it's never all going right. And I'm sure as soon as I do step away, I'll see that. But it's lovely, and I love the conversation as well.